yesterday. Normally in cases like this, it takes a long, extended time to do it. This one did not need to take very long. The videos helped, the statements we got, our proper policy and procedures that we go by are already there for us to know what they are. So it was not something that needed to take long, and it didn't take long. I think sometimes in these cases and maybe other places, they take a little bit unnecessary time. We felt like we needed to do this very quickly because the public needed to know what happened and what our response was going to be to this. Again, our responsibility was to do the internal investigation solely on policy violations. When this was first brought to my attention on Monday, even though I was out of town at a law enforcement conference in Chicago, we took action very quickly. Deputy Fields was placed on suspension without pay. He's been on that until today. I also immediately contacted the FBI and asked them to do the criminal investigation on this. The first was a phone call, and then it was followed up by a written request. I felt like that the FBI was the only agency that needed to be investigating this, that did not want anybody to come up with any type of reason to say that this was not properly investigated and handled by authorities that need to be handled. The FBI is one of the most trusted and respected law enforcement agencies in this state and probably in the world, and that's why I turned to them and asked them to conduct a full and thorough investigation to see if there was any criminal violations, and the FBI accepted that. I also contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office and asked them to be part of that, and that the Justice Department be part of looking into these actions also. Our U.S. Attorney William Nettles agreed to that, and so the FBI and Civil Rights Division has initiated their investigation. It was started yesterday. They've already have it full swing. We're fully cooperating with them to make sure that they have everything that they need. We took statements from the teacher and the administrator that was present. This incident started with a very disruptive student in a class. The student was not allowing the teacher to teach and was not allowing the students to learn. She was very disruptive, she was very disrespectful, and she started this whole instance with her actions. She refused to leave the class as directed by the teacher. She refused to follow his instructions. He called for assistance from the school administrator. The school administrator got there, who was African American, and he attempted to get her to leave the class also. She refused his instructions, was continually disrespectful to him. All the while the students are still in the class. They're supposed to be there learning. Their education was put on hold while this disruptive student had to be dealt with. At that point, School Resource Officer Ben Fields was called. The situation was explained to him. He attempted to get the student to leave. He was then asked to remove her from the class. And at that point, I think we've seen the various videos. I will note that the teacher and the school administrator in their statements both fully support the actions of Ben Fields. They said that he acted appropriately, that he didn't use excessive force, and he did what was necessary. And that came from both of them who were present when this happened. The third video from another student who also supports Officer Fields actually shows the student, female student, striking Ben Fields and her resisting when he tried to get her from her chair. Once he put her hands on her, he was allowed to do that. He placed her under arrest. He verbally told her that he was under arrest. He attempted to use force to make the arrest. I do not feel that the proper procedures was used at that point, and that's what's caused me my heartburn and what my issues with this. The maneuver that he used was not based on the training or acceptable. Our training unit looked at it, they examined it. I have a written report from them, which I'll share with all of you, which goes into details on the force continuum, how we train our officers, and what we expect of them in circumstances like this. Their recommendation to me was that Deputy Fields did not follow proper training, did not follow proper procedure when he threw the student across the room. From the very beginning, that's what's caused me to be upset when I first saw that video, and continues to upset me when I see that video, is the fact that he picked the student up and he threw the student across the room. That is not a proper technique and should not be used in law enforcement. And based on that, that is a violation of our policy. And approximately 20 minutes ago, School Resource Officer Ben Fields was terminated from the Richland County Sheriff's Department. We have some 87 school resource officers throughout the schools in Richland County. Every day these deputies do a fantastic job. They work very closely with the students, the faculty, and the parents, and they develop a great relationship. Monday's actions by Deputy Fields was not typical of the job that I expect them to do, parents expect them to do, students expect them to do, and the community expects them to do. By and large, we have great SROs. We get COPS grants. We get COPS grants to assist us in putting school resource officers in our schools. As a requirement of the COPS grant, we recently had an investigative team come down and just do a routine examination of our school resource officer program. They went to various schools to look at the number of incarcerations that we have, the number of discipline actions that are taken at our schools, the activities of our SROs. One of the schools they went and they did a close examination of was Spring Valley High School. And they talked to School Resource Officer Deputy Ben Fields, and they gave Spring Valley very high remarks for their efforts in reducing the number of arrests in that school. Their examinations to make sure that there's no civil rights violations with our school resource officers and the school district. That was just recently conducted. My responsibility now is to continue to build and maintain the relationship that the Sheriff's Department has with the community. This is accomplished by doing many things. The first one is taking responsibility for officers when they do something wrong. I've built my reputation on standing up for our deputies when they are right, and also standing up here and saying and admitting that when our deputies do wrong. And Deputy Ben Fields did wrong this past Monday. So we're taking that responsibility for that. We need to act swiftly and with transparency. That's what we've tried to do. We also want to publicly address the situation and request an independent investigation. We have done all those things. I feel like we have moved very quickly on this. We've done the right thing in our actions in terminating him. We're doing the right thing and continuing to build that relationship that we have with the community. I've contacted various elected officials from federal, state, and local and discussed that with them. Discussed it with our religious community. We have a group of pastors that are here with us now that I've been in close contact with. Our Citizens Advisory Council, we have those members here. For those who are not familiar with us at Richland County, we're the only agency in the state of South Carolina that has a Citizens Advisory Council. These are individuals from our community that come in and they review everything that we do at our Sheriff's Department, our policies, our procedures, our disciplinary actions, our terminations. They have full access to everything that we do. They help us have transparency. They help us have the voice of the community in everything that we do at this Sheriff's Department. They are here now. This case will be presented to them and they'll review it. But we didn't have time to call an emergency meeting and present it to them first. I felt like we needed to do what we're doing right now, and it needed to be done very quickly, but I've invited them to be here. The chairman's here, and the majority of their members are here also. You know, our schools are schools for education. SROs are part of that process. And when a classroom is disrupted by a student, that disrupts the education process. and the students can't learn and the teachers can't teach. We have to have discipline in our schools. Now, whose responsibility is that? That falls on all of us. That falls on parents, that falls on the students, that falls on the teachers and administrations. We must not lose sight that this whole incident started by this student. She is responsible for initiating this action. There's some responsibility that falls on her. Now, the action of our deputies, we take responsibility for that, but we also have to put responsibility on her for disrupting that school, disrupting that class, and causing this incident to start from the very beginning. Now, what she did doesn't justify what our deputy did. I don't want anybody to think that. It doesn't justify his actions. But she needs to be held responsible for what she did. Our schools must be an educational environment, and it's the responsibility of everyone to make sure it's that way. And it starts with the parents, goes through the students, and goes through all of us. This has been a very difficult situation for all of us. I not only answer to the citizens of Richland County, but I also answer to a 12-year-old at my house, my daughter who's in the 7th grade. And I would hope that all parents would take the opportunity that I have to sit down and talk with your children about what happened. This needs to be a learning opportunity for all of us. We need to talk to our kids that sometimes young people make bad decisions, and they should be held accountable for that. And that they should have discipline, and they should have respect, and they should have that everywhere, but it's particularly in our schools. And I've talked to my daughter about that, and I've talked to my daughter also that police officers make mistakes too, and they're human, and they need to be held accountable, and that's what we've done with Deputy Ben Fields, that we've held him accountable also. Denying that this was a very terrible incident, it's not going to accomplish anything, so we're not denying that. But we also don't need to create unnecessary conflicts. This should be a time of building bridges and not tearing bridges down. So I hope those in this community that will remain to be here long after all these cameras are gone, that we continue to build the bridges that we have between our citizens and the Sheriff's Department. We have an excellent relationship here. This one incident's not going to tear it down, and we're going to work very hard to continue to have that relationship through our Citizens Advisory Council. That is a tremendous asset to us. The relationships we have, the religious community, with all the communities here. We're not going to let this destroy what we've built up for so many years and having a great relationship here between the Sheriff's Department and the citizens. Questions?
Sheriff, what should...
Has this officer faced disciplinary action before? Have you had complaints about his behavior, either directly to you or through parents or through school associations or through the school district? And also, could you please give us his personnel file today?
No, I'm not going to release his personnel file while I'm standing here right here today.
I'm sorry?
No, not right at this moment. I'm not going to release his personnel file.
Okay.
We'll deal with that. He has had complaints in the past. We have not had complaints from the school district on him at any time. We have not had any complaints from the school district on him. He has had complaints in the past. Some of them have been sustained, as meaning he's done them, and some of them have not been. He's been sued in the past. The lawsuit went to trial, and a jury found that he did not do the things that he was accused of.
Sheriff, can you tell us what Ben Fields should have done in that situation?
I can tell you what he should not have done. What he should not have done is thrown the student. That's what he should not have done. He could have maybe done a lot of things that he is trained to do, but he was not trained to throw the student. When you make an arrest from someone who does not have a weapon that you need to escape from, you never let go of that subject. You maintain control of him, the person you're trying to arrest. When he threw her across the room, he lost control of her. That's not acceptable. That's what violated our policy.
Is there a policy gap?
Has Deputy Fields expressed any remorse to you or to the department?
I don't know if the word is remorse. He's sorry that this whole thing occurred. It was not his intent. His intent was not to do anything that brought discredit on the Sheriff's Department or him or that school. He tried to do his job, and that's what he feels like he did. He tried to do his job. It happened very quickly. His actions was something that if he probably had to do it over again, he would probably done them different.
Did you speak to him personally?
Sure.
Yes, I did speak to him personally.
This goes back to that. As lay people who haven't had law enforcement training, how do you do that correctly? You don't obviously throw her out of the chair, but how do you get her out if she's refusing to get out of the seat?
Well, the first thing you do is you try to use some verbal communications. We would hope that, physical force would be the last resort. She wasn't a danger at that point. She was just being non-compliant and disrespectful. You try to use verbal commands, and you try to do it verbally. You try to de-escalate the situation instead of escalate it. And then when you do have to put your hands on someone, there's techniques that we're taught. There's pressure points. There's other things that you use. It's called pain compliance. And throwing someone across the room is not pain compliance, and that's not something that we teach.
Sheriff, clearly you are taking this the utmost of seriousness. We've heard from the community with the backdrop of the church massacre here earlier this year with Baltimore, New York, Ferguson, everything that's happened here. Just wanted you to get a little reflective maybe and tell us, what is it like? Quickly, there is great interest from around the country in this. What is it like to be at the center of something like this in this particular time? You've been the sheriff for 20 years. I'm sure in law enforcement much longer. Columbia's changed. The country's changed. What's it like to be here today?
Well, I think what you're seeing today is bringing out the best of the Columbia community. You haven't seen riots. You haven't seen protests. You haven't seen burning the buildings. What you've seen is people come together. We have the numerous churches represented here. We have the Citizens Advisory Council here. I think people here know that we're going to do the right thing, and they expect us to do the right thing. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing some swift action by us. You're seeing that we're doing the right thing. And I think that's what this community expects us to do, and they waited to see us do that. And I think you've seen that throughout South Carolina, that we deal with situations. We don't run from them. We don't deny them. We address them head on, and then we try to find solutions for them. And then we move on. And that's what you're seeing here.
Sheriff, I have a follow-up.
Sheriff, initially your office told us that there had been no injuries sustained in this incident. Yesterday you characterized that the girl had received something like rug burn. Now her lawyer says that she sustained injuries to her arm, neck, and back. Was your original characterization accurate?
It was accurate with the information that I was given. That's what I was told, and that's what the officers on the scene and the school administration all expressed. Nobody said anything about any injuries besides what I described yesterday as occurring. Now, what's occurred once she has an attorney, that may be a different story.
Sheriff, while he was found to have violated some policies and procedures, will this incident change any of the training SROs have to go through, or any of your other deputies?
Well, of course, we're going to use this as a learning opportunity for all of us. We'll take what he did and the mistake that he made. We'll make sure that all of our deputies who are in the schools, and then all the deputies throughout the sheriff's department, learn from that and know that you have to do things differently and not like he did. We're also going to talk very closely with the school districts and making sure that they understand that when they call us, that we're going to take a law enforcement action. They're there to take administrative actions. And if they want us to take a law enforcement action, then we'll do that. But if they don't want us, then they don't need to call us that. It maybe needs to be re-examined on the role of the SRO that some of these schools are using us for. Should he have ever been called there? That's something we're going to talk to the school district about. Maybe that should have been something handled by the teacher and that school administrator without ever calling the deputy.
Sheriff, you said that her actions were very disruptive, the students' actions were very disruptive during class. Can you give specifics on how and what she did to be very disruptive?
She wasn't following instructions of the teacher. There were certain things the students were supposed to be doing. I think they had Chromebooks they were supposed to be studying from and doing something that's education related. She was not doing that. She was using her phone. He had asked her to put it up. She continued to do it. She wasn't doing what the other students were doing. He was trying to teach. This teacher was trying to teach. That's his job. She was preventing that from happening because she was not paying attention. And then she was verbally disrespected, would not do what he asked her to do, When he wrote her up and told her to leave and go to the office, she refused to do it. She continued to disrupt the class. So from the moment that she started, and it continued right on through when the officer got involved in it. So she prevented what occurred and what's supposed to happen in a classroom, and that's for the teacher to teach and students to learn. She prevented that from happening by her actions.
Is she facing charges?
Were there any prior behavioral issues with the students or anything that Officer Fields and administrators would have been aware of?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the students' history at the school. And really, that to me, that doesn't matter. That's not something we looked at. And I think I said that yesterday. The student's behavior, what she did, was not what I looked at. What I looked at was what my guy did. And that's why he was terminated for, was his actions, not anything that she had to do. It's entirely what he did. That's what we looked at.
Sheriff,
Is she facing charges, Sheriff?
did the school ever relay you any concerns about Deputy Fields? It seems he had a certain reputation among some of the students. They nicknamed him Officer Slam. Was any of that ever brought to your attention?
No, he's been at that school for 7 years. He's highly respected as a school resource officer. They wanted him at Spring Valley. He has tremendous support from the faculty and staff at Spring Valley and from students. You know, of course, when something like this happens, you do have people that's going to come up and say things they've never said before. We have never heard anything like that. It's never been a complaint. It's been absolutely, totally the opposite. If it's a school that had any problems, they wouldn't allow him to be a football coach. He was part of that school administration, part of that staff. So there was no signs or no indications or anything like that. And you know, I've read and heard some things that students have said, but I've also been contacted by a lot of parents, a lot of students, and from officials from that school who were totally in support of him, what he's done in the past and what he did the other day. But again, my decision is based on what he did as a deputy sheriff. As a representative of me at that school, when he put his hands on her, when he threw her across the room, that's what I made my decision on.
Sheriff, given that the officer did not follow policy, have all charges been dropped against Nia Kennedy?
Based on the information that you now have, what injuries did the student sustain?
I don't know. I've just heard the same news reports that the attorney now, and again, you know, you have to look at what happens now, how different people now will become involved in it. You know, I've heard criticism that we didn't move fast enough. This is slightly over 48 hours. I doubt very seriously there's been any other case in the nation that something similar like this that moved as quickly and we took action as what we have done. You know, that's what we're going to do. Somebody in the back had something. Somebody in the back?
Yes. Have all the charges been dropped against Nia Kennedy, and why was she arrested?
I don't know all the facts about her. I did not deal with that. To my understanding, no charges have been dropped against anybody, and to my understanding, the charge is going to continue. What they did was wrong. They violated the law. Now, what Officer Fields did is wrong also. We're dealing with that, but we're not going to lose sight of what the students did also. So I don't know all the facts. I don't know all the facts from her arrest, so I can't address her. What I'm addressing is what my officer did.
What about in the past? Has he ever raised any concerns? Can you talk about the past complaints and the ones that were sustained?
No, because I don't know everything about him. I mean,
You have never had any cause for concern or had to talk to him about?
If I've had cause of concern and felt that he was a danger, then he wouldn't have been in the school. If the school thought that he was a problem, they wouldn't have allowed him to be at Spring Valley for 7 years. Prior to that, he was at E.L. Wright Middle School. He received awards for character and stuff. So
But
again,
you also had some complaints, you said, that had been sustained.
right. And
What were that?
honestly, I don't know. I haven't examined that. That's not what I looked at. What I've been concerned with over the last 48 hours is what happened at Spring Valley High School on Monday. That's what I've looked at, and that's what I've made my decision based on.
So who will face what charges going forward? What will the students face now that you've gone through the investigation and you can properly charge them, or when will they be charged? And then will the officer face any charges?
Well, I don't know if the officer can face charges because we only did the policy violations. That's up to the FBI. We've turned that completely over to FBI. So if any criminal charges come, it will come from the FBI, United States Attorney's Office. The students that were arrested, their original charge stands. There's nothing happened to change with those charges at all. They still need to be held accountable for their actions. This, what Deputy Fields did doesn't excuse them for what they did. And, to me, that's two separate things. He did wrong, they did wrong also. He's been held accountable for his wrong. They should be held accountable for their wrong also.
Sheriff, you mentioned that the teacher and administrator gave statements in support of Deputy Fields. Can you tell us a little bit more about their statements? What did they support about what he did?
They supported his actions. They felt like that everything he did was correct, that he didn't use excessive force, that the student was the one that was combative, and that what he did was correct.
Even the physical part?
Even the physical part. They had no problems with the physical part from those two other adults in the room. And one student in the room also who videoed it had no problems with it. But again, I'm the one that had problems with it. I'm the one that counts when it comes to his employment. I have problems with it. He didn't follow our policies, so I have a problem with that, so I deal with that. We listened to them, we took their statements, what they saw, but again, I have to make the decision. Is he someone that I want representing me, wearing my badge and going out here and carrying out the duties? And my determination was no on that, and that's why he was terminated today.
Did you know him personally? Is it a tough decision for you?
I have 900 employees, and I can pretty much know every single one of them. That's one of the things that I make, that's very important to me, is that I do know all my people very personally. Is it difficult? It was the right thing to do. Is it something I enjoy? Definitely not. But that's part of my job. As the sheriff, that is my responsibility. That's what people elect me to do, is to make the hard decisions, and I made that decision today. To me, it wasn't a hard decision. It was a decision that was very evident that I needed to make, and I make it.
Sheriff, you said that this was a learning situation, or you hoped that it would be a learning situation. What have you personally learned from this experience?
The positive that I've learned is that this community can stand tall, and that we can work together, and that we won't allow an incident like this to tear us apart. That's probably one of the biggest things that I learned, is that all the work and time and effort that we've been putting into building a relationship with the community for all these years, it showed. It showed having a Citizens Advisory Council as being a very positive thing. And I've been criticized a great deal within the law enforcement community for having a Citizens Advisory Council. For years, we're the only ones that had it. And other agencies criticize us for having citizens come in and see what we do and have a voice in what we say. That's totally wrong with me. We work for the people, and there's nothing we should hide from our citizens, and that's why we have a Citizens Advisory Council. So what I've learned is that the hard work and the efforts we've put in all these years, it worked. It worked, and it's showing that it's continuing to work, and we'll move forward with it. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of Nadia Kennedy, the student who was not involved directly in that video, but was charged with disrupting class afterwards, if her disruption of class came after, almost in response to what she saw happen with the deputy and that student, why wouldn't her charges then be dropped if you're saying that that deputy acted out of the normal system?
And that's something for a prosecutor to decide. That's not what we're going to say. She still disrupted class. You saw other students that did not disrupt class. They sat there and they did what students are supposed to be, and that's well disciplined. The language that she used and some of her actions continued to disrupt the class. But again, the charges have been made, and that will be determined at a later date what's going to happen with it. That's not something, a decision that I'm going to make today. Again, my whole focus has been, since this happened on Monday, is did my deputy do something that he shouldn't have done? And that's what we focused on.
Could you maybe say what a citizen or a student in this case should do if they see a police acting inappropriately?
Exactly.
Should they sit there, or should they?
Exactly what some of those people did, and that's film it. Film it and give us the opportunity to address it. And that's what those students did. They filmed it, and we're addressing it, and that's what citizens should do. I would hope that every citizen, that has a cell phone that has a camera on it, they see something that's going on that they've got questions about, then they need to film it. And then they need to get it to the proper people and let us look at it and see if it's something that's being done correctly or not. I can't fix problems if I don't know about it. And that's what we look for our citizens to do. Our citizens should police the police. That's their job too, is to police us and make sure we're doing our job the right way. And when we don't, then it's up to me and other law enforcement leaders to fix those problems. And either we correct the problems or we get rid of the problem. And that's what we're doing. Somebody's hands up way in the back.
Have any of your SROs ever done anything like this before?
My question is, when you say citizens have the right to police the police, does that also include students who are responding to policy, to actions that were outside of policy and therefore simply an attack on classrooms?
Should they record it? Yes. I mean, when I say
they have the right to police the police, the students, are they also citizens who have the right to do that?
Yeah, I think everybody's a citizen, regardless of your age or if you're sitting in the classroom or if you're walking down the street. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
I have copies.
What he's giving you is basically the written stuff, that some of the stuff I went over.
All right, folks, and there you have it. Sheriff Leon Lott there giving us some breaking news saying that the SRO